there, and welcome into another edition of the JMac Podcast. Today, a follow-up to a previous video and podcast about whether or not the NBA should allow its players to be political. President Trump has said that the NBA has become a political organization, and many Republicans, and I'm going to say not just Republicans, I think some people on the left feel this way, that a sport should not be politicized. Now, there's a lot of people that support what the NBA has done, and if you haven't been watching the NBA, I will tell you that their messages about social injustice are everywhere. They're on the back of the uniforms. Right on the basketball court, it says Black Lives Matter. In the commercial breaks, there are social injustice messages. You know that there was a recent boycott because of what happened to Jacob Blake. So they are sending a message. Now, a lot of people have made a specific claim, and this is the claim that I want to deal with today. And it was actually articulated by my former opponent in the congressional campaign, Burgess Owens. Now, you know I ran in the primary, and Burgess Owens beat me soundly. So let's just put that out there first. And here's what he said. He said, pro athletes shouldn't protest in the workplace and still expect to have a job. He said there's plenty of time, plenty of money to do it in the off season. He said, if you young men want to protest, let them protest on their own time. And so I wanted to deal with this. I mean, I completely understand. There's a lot of companies out there that don't want any political activity in the workplace. They don't want you to wear shirts or hats. They don't want any disruptions in the workplace. And it's their right to require that. But here's what's really interesting to me about conservatives saying that there should be no protests in the workplace. Conservatives believe in business rights. I believe in business rights. So I believe that a business should be able to decide what type of clientele they serve with, limited restriction, that they should be able to decide what their employees can and cannot do. This is a business rights issue. So when you say pro athletes shouldn't protest in the workplace, you're deciding what this employer should do for them. But the employer has every right to decide that they're going to allow politics in the workplace, and they're going to deal with the ramifications that come from that. This is a rights issue. So when you say they shouldn't do this or shouldn't be allowed to do this, who are you to decide that for the NBA? The NBA has every right to decide how they will accept this, what they will do in regards to this. Other sports have taken a different path, and they have every right to do that. Just like we say businesses have a right to say you have to wear a mask when you come inside the business. Now, I don't think Burgess likes that because he said he doesn't wear a mask. But that's the right that businesses have. And to me, part of conservatism is supporting business rights. So you have a right and they have a right. What is their right? Their right is to allow their players and employees to be political and to use their time to do that. That's their freedom. Now, your freedom is to decide whether or not you're going to participate in the NBA. And a lot of people, I'm sure, have seen that messaging and said, I can't stand it. I'm not going to watch anymore. That's too political. They're going to say, I don't watch sports for politics. They're going to say, shut up and dribble or whatever else. But the truth is, the bottom line is that the NBA is allowing this to happen. Whatever the consequences are, they are allowing their employees to do so. Now, when you go out and start a business, you can decide within your own company what type of attire you will allow. People are like, oh, I have the freedom of speech. I can make political statements and wear political things at work. No, it's not true. Free speech does not allow you to give you the freedom from consequences of speech. Businesses have every right to say this is not allowed while you're on the clock because it could affect morale. It could affect customer service. I mean, an example would be the cashier in the grocery store who's lecturing every customer who comes through and they're buying meat and junk food and all of these things. You don't want that. That's going to be bad for business. So you don't allow that. And if the employee does that, then you fire that employee. And in my mind, that's the way it should be. So, to me, it's kind of a cop-out to say this is not allowed in the workplace. Because again, you're ignoring the message. And every time we get caught up on whether or not the name Black Lives Matters should be All Lives Matter, or we get caught up on whether or not these protests should be allowed, and I think purposefully, skipping past the real issues. We're deciding to find a tangent, something that really doesn't apply, so that we don't have to deal with the larger issue, so that we don't have to listen to the other side, we don't have to consider what they think, so that we don't have to be put in an uncomfortable place, and so that we're not challenged. That is, to me, what is happening here in this case, when you simply say, you can't protest in the workplace. Yeah, you can, as long as your employee lets you. Hey, take a minute, please, and like this video, subscribe to our podcast, and share it, please. And also take a minute, if you will, to make a donation to this podcast. Click on the link in the description and become a monthly donor, or give us a one-time donation. Either way will really help us out and continue to cut through the madness that is out there and get right to the heart of the issues, so that we can make some sense of this maddening world that we live in.